International Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5. Dasa Buddhyavarana Vidyate Prabhuti Srinada Vacha Shuddha Putra Girodaitya Parapaksha Samahita Dasa Buddhyavarana Vidyate Prabhuti Srinada Vacha Shuddha Putra Girodaitya Parapaksha Samahita Dasa Buddhyavarana Vidyate Prabhuti Srinada Vacha Shuddha Putra Girodaitya Parapaksha Samahita Dasa Buddhyavarana Vidyate Prabhuti Shri Narada Vacha Narada Muni said, Shuddha hearing, Putra Giraha, the instructive words of his son, Daitya Hiranyakashipu, Parapaksha, on the side of the enemy, Samahita, full of faith, Jahasa, laughed, Buddhi, the intelligence, Maranam, of small boys, Vidyate, is polluted, Parabhudipihi, by instructions from the enemy's camp. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Narada Muni continued, when Prahlad Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization and devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlad's words, and he laughingly said, thus is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of the enemy. Purport. Hiranyakashipu, being a demon, would always consider Lord Vishnu and his devotees to be his enemies. Therefore, the word parapaksha, on the side of the enemy, is used here. Hiranyakashipu never agreed with the words of Vishnu or Krishna. Rather, he was angered by the intelligence of a Vaishnava. Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna says, Sarva dharmam prityaja mamikam shranam braja. Give up all other duties and surrender unto me. But demons like Hiranyakashipu never agreed to do this. Therefore, Krishna says, Namam duskritino mutha prapadyanti naradama Maya Paritagyana Asuram Bhavam Ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest amongst mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. The Asura Bhava, the atheistic nature, is directly represented by Hiranyakashipu. Such persons being Muda and Naradama, fools and rascals, the lowest of men, would never accept Vishnu as the supreme and surrender to him. Hiranyakashipu naturally became increasingly angry that his son Prahlad was being influenced by the camp of the enemies. He therefore asked that the saintly persons like Narada not be allowed within the residential quarters of his son, for otherwise Prahlad would be further spoiled by Vaishnava instructions. Om Jnanatamrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadam Mayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagujatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishakham Vitamshcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bando Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bharevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So here we're continuing our study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Very nicely, the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj is unfolding. It's one of the favorite pastimes of the devotees. Oftentimes, I've been in circumstances devotees are getting together to read Bhagavatam. When they're deciding where to read, oftentimes the seventh canto comes up. And it's been a long way in the making. Yudhishthira Maharaj is inquiring whether Krishna is actually equal to all. And in answer to this, then we're getting this entire pastime has been manifested. So the translation again, Narada Muni continued, when Prahlad Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization and devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlad's words, and he laughingly said, thus is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of the enemy. So here we see the role of Narada Muni. Narada Muni, always he likes to stir things up a little bit. Narada Muni is described as actually the Bhakti Shakti. He's an incarnation of the energy of devotional service. He has the ability to give Krishna to anybody. Prabhupada writes in some purports that Nara refers to Narayan and Da means to give. So Narada Muni, he can give Krishna to anybody. Because Narada Muni, he gives devotional service. And by devotional service, when it's executed properly, purely, at a stage of Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, then has the ability to completely control Krishna. So Narada Muni, he has this. And so Narada Muni is described as the greatest son of Lord Brahma, because he has this ability. And so he appears very frequently throughout the Bhagavatam. And here, because of his words to Prahlad Maharaj. When Prahlad Maharaj was in the womb, then Hiranyakashipu is thinking that the intelligence of my child is spoiled. And this is the role of spiritual teachers. Narada Muni is exemplifying what it means to be a guru. He's disrupting, he's defeating one's material endeavors. That Hiranyakashipu has this great plan. Always in life, the nature of the mind is accepting and rejecting, is always planning how we can enjoy materially. And Hiranyakashipu has had this great plan. I perform these great austerities, I receive these benedictions, I become the most powerful person in the universe. And naturally, no one can enjoy alone. It's not possible to enjoy alone. You see anybody who gets some money, or they get some nice car, or they have a nice house, whatever it is, they need other people there so they can enjoy it with them. And same for Hiranyakashipu. He's like, well, my family life now, this is how I can enjoy. But Prahlad Maharaj is a thorn in his side, you could say, because it's disrupting this ability to enjoy. We were hearing I think yesterday from Baleshwar Prabhu that it's the nature of material enjoyment that we cannot see how much suffering is involved in trying to enjoy. But actually, real intelligence means to see how much, simply for a little chapala sukhi, there's one bhajan, like a fragment of flickering happiness, how much suffering we're willing to go through. You know, we're like a drop of water in a lotus flower. This material world, there's danger at every single step. Yet there's this glare, this phantasmagoria of material life is so strong that it makes us forget how much suffering we have to go in that endeavor. And therefore, the role of the spiritual teacher, as Narada Muni is exemplifying, is to cut through that ignorance, and is to actually said Tasmad Guru Prapadyeta Jigyashur Shreya Uttama. That there's certain qualifications for a guru and certain qualifications for a disciple. It's a famous verse in the 11th canto Prabhupada would often quote. And he would give an extensive translation stating that only once we've reached the point of complete material exhaustion, we realize that this material world that has nothing for me, then we should approach the spiritual master and inquire from him, Shreya Uttama, that about the highest good for ultimate benefit. There is many temporary things we inquire about. You know, how can we be happy? How can we be well situated? But the ultimate good is how we can develop love for God. And there's qualifications for the guru as well. That the guru, he has to be able to convince one, fully realized in Vedic knowledge and able to convince one of these facts. But nonetheless, we find, with the example of Srila Prabhupada, the example of Narada Muni, many examples when the guru is approaching someone who's not materially exhausted. They're still having some desire to enjoy materially, but simply by the association of that spiritual person, that we see spiritual knowledge is not a matter of simply, I tell you this, then you understand this, and then you become my disciple. No, we see with Prabhupada, he was so expert, but many times he would just give his association to people. People are desperate, people are hungry, people are suffering, but they have no idea what it is that they are looking for. One thing that's very difficult to do, I'd recommend if you take some time, is if you notice you have certain emotions, you're full of emotions, thinking, feeling, and willing is the nature of the mind. But how we can actually, if you were to place a finger on these emotions, is very difficult. You know, it's like trying to grasp at some vague blob. It's very hard to say exactly what you're feeling at a certain time. You know, you're feeling upset, emotional, but it's difficult to actually characterize what that feeling actually is. And spiritually, we're feeling like this as well. We have this deep sense, from many lifetimes, this deep sense that we don't belong here. But nonetheless, the nature of the material world is so strong. It's like you're in a fast-flowing river. You just get bobbed down, going with the flow. But nonetheless, the feeling is there. And then when you're in the presence of Srila Prabhupada's representatives, then they give the feeling that actually there is much, much more. And simply by this association, then one becomes that level of material exhaustion. And the relationship with the Guru is a perennial thing. It's not a matter of simply now I have reached that point of material exhaustion and I'm going to inquire from you from the ultimate good. Okay, then you'll answer me, and then that's the end of the relationship. Now the relationship's a constant thing, but constantly become more and more ready to inquire and more receptive and willing to hear. There's a quality about our hearing. So in the purport, Prabhupada's clarifying what it means to be a demon. He's saying that the demons never agree to Krishna's statements. Krishna is saying, give up all other duties and surrender unto me. But demons like Hiranyakashipu never agree to do this. And Prabhupada gives a classification of those who do not surrender unto Krishna. Namam duskritino muta prapadyanti naradama mayaya parhita jnana asram bhavam asrita. Those who are grossly foolish, lowest amongst mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So this Maya Parhita Jnana, they have so much knowledge, material knowledge, but nonetheless, that is actually an impediment for their ability to see reality as it is. And it's very interesting. I was listening to this morning, one morning walk, Prabhupada speaking with Swarup Damodar Maharaj. And they're discussing Darwin's theory of evolution, etc. And Prabhupada, you could speak so heavily. They would present different arguments about, they say like this, and they say like this, and Prabhupada would just cut through. And you think, well, Prabhupada doesn't have any scientific knowledge, maybe he doesn't understand their arguments properly. No, but Prabhupada could see reality as it is. And therefore you can see how their so-called intelligence is simply an impediment in their ability to actually understand that there's a creator. And then when you become a devotee, you start practicing devotional service, it becomes very, at least some things are quite obvious. Okay, maybe you might not know the nature of the spiritual world, you might not know about Krishna. But the fact that there's an intelligence behind this creation that didn't manifest from nowhere is almost self-evident. Because this is a process of elevating our consciousness, settling the pool of water is very muddy. You cannot see things as they are. But then when you settle the consciousness, then naturally you can see things clearer. You can perceive higher levels of reality. So therefore, Hiranyakashipu is preventing Narada Muni from associating with his son, because this is the danger of the spiritual person giving his association. Prabhupada said, if they knew what was in my books, they would kill me. This is the danger of spiritual knowledge. It cuts through the illusion. So yeah, perhaps kindly if devotees would like to share some of their reflections or realizations in this verse.
And the four types of people that don't surrender and the four types that do. And the question came up, how do we discriminate without judging?
How to discriminate without judging?
Yeah. How do we apply that? Because Prabhupada's making it very clear that this is bad, this is demoniac. And so there is a tendency then for us to become judgmental. How do we avoid being judgmental while at the same time not abandoning our discrimination?
teachings of Bhagavad Gita, his understanding is that the individual, the living entity, is pure and is an eternal servant of Krishna. And depending upon how much that consciousness is covered, then we're in different stages of life. We associate with different modes of material nature, etc. Therefore, there's the famous phrase, we can hate the sin but not the sinner. We have to see how someone is. I was listening just a couple of days ago, Indrajumna Maharaj, sharing his memories of Prabhupada. And there was someone at an airport was being very sort of hostile towards Prabhupada and wanting to check in all his bags. It's funny, so he said, Prabhupada had his briefcase, and he says, open that bag. And Prabhupada pretends he doesn't hear them. I think he tries to open it and he can't open it. The man tries to open it, he says, Prabhupada, open that bag. And Prabhupada just ignores him. He says, open that bag, I said. And Indrajumna Maharaj, he leans over and says, if you speak to my spiritual master like that again, I'll punch you in the face. And the man takes a step back. He says, I thought you're supposed to be peaceful. He says, not when you insult a pure devotee. And then Indrajumna opened the bag and showed him. Or Indrajumna Maharaj, he opened the bag and he just became mesmerized by looking at all of Prabhupada's paraphernalia and items and different things. But then afterwards, he said it was the first time he'd been alone with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, just see how by association with the modes of material nature becomes so degraded. Do you understand, Indrajumna Prabhu? Prabhu that time. I said, yes, Prabhupada. And then he didn't really understand. Prabhupada said again, just see the living entity associates with these different modes of material nature and becomes so degraded. Do you understand? Yes, Prabhupada. But he still didn't understand. And Prabhupada said a third time. And some other Prabhupada stopped and looked at him. And then he said it really sunk in deeply that third time. That Prabhupada can actually see how these modes of material nature are just at one. This is what's covering people. And then when one's on that platform, then actually compassion can properly be there. It's like oftentimes we can become enamored by our own sense of how compassionate we are or how tolerant we are. But okay, I see there's someone like that and they're they're not a nice person to be around, rude and a little bit smelly, and they don't act in this way and they're not following these principles, but still I can tolerate it and I can be compassionate towards them. But the more advanced devotee like Prabhupada, he's actually seeing how this is just an eternal servant of Krishna who's simply, by association with different modes of material nature, in a certain place right now, he can give compassion on that level. Perhaps you have some things to speak to.
Yeah, the word discrimination has stigma attached to it these days. If you discriminate, it's considered that you're in the wrong, wherever it is, even if you're discriminating very correctly. So a doctor has to discriminate. Somebody has to push a big hypodermic needle into him. Sometimes he has to give a little tablet. So if the person who gets the hypodermic needle sees the other person only gets the tablet, he says, oh, you're discriminating. Why are you being so cruel to me and you're not being so bad to him? But he misunderstands the doctor's intention. It's not that the doctor's out for him and wants to stab him with a hypodermic needle. He's hated him from the first time he had existed. But it's just that that's what the circumstances are requiring, So in the same way as a preacher, we're trying to help everyone to go forward in a Krishna consciousness. Somebody needs strong words. Somebody needs kind words. Everybody, we have to discriminate and bring people forward, one way or the other. So that's not judging them in the sense that you're against them, but it's just that you're using your intelligence to see, to clear the path for them if they're doing something which is going to be harmful to themselves, or maybe also to you, then they maybe need to be put into a different situation.
Anyone else have anything like to add on this verse or comment? So in reverse, Krishna also gives 4 types of people who do approach him. Shatra Vida Bhajantimam, Jnana Sukriti Arjuna, Arta Tarta Jigyashu, somewhere around Tarshabha. Those who are in distress, those who are inquisitive, those who are inquiring, those who are after wealth, and those who are after the ultimate truth. And so similarly, the difference between these, the miscreants who are grossly foolish, who don't surrender, and those who do surrender, or do approach Krishna, is this, I guess we could say, sort of piety. There's some level of piety there, of good karma, and it will make one more likely, it paves the ground for one to actually approach Krishna. But on its own merit, simply good activity is not enough. There has to also be the mercy of the devotee, that one does not get bhakti without bhakta. But this process is there. It's Brahmanda Brahmite Kono Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhaya, Bhakti Bija. That when, although we're wandering up and down the material universe, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, then we can make it the Bhakti Bij. So when Krishna sees a we're sincere, and also he sends devotees. But devotees are actually they're more merciful than Krishna, that they actually go out their way, even when people are not so sincere. Simply give this a gift of Sukriti.
Hare Krishna, bro. Thank you, bro. So, like we understand this Chapala Sukha, life is very fickle and there's danger at every step, say, practicing Krishna consciousness. Now, how, like personally speaking, in my practice, what should I do? Where should I focus my mood, attention, energy should be, so that I can actually be very happy in the practice of Krishna consciousness and preach also happily and share this happy message of Mahaprabhu. Say.
Narutama Boro Duki, Nita More Parasuki, Shishikudita Mahaprashiki. The Acharyas, Narottam Das Thakur, he's very, very unhappy. Therefore, where does he turn? Nitai Pada Kamala. He says, firmly grasp hold of the feet of Lord Nityananda. Simply to Lord Nityananda is full of bliss. It means Nityananda. Therefore, we take shelter of him. We try and get his blessing. You avoid the blessings of Lord Nityananda. The Lord Nityananda, he's not discriminating. Not that he can see who's qualified and who's qualified, and yet nonetheless gives mercy. He cannot see. He's so intoxicated in the love of God. Simply, whoever's there, Patra Vichara Nahi Nahi Stana Stana. Whenever there's, regardless of if they're qualified or not qualified, if it's the right place or the right time, etc. Whenever there's an opportunity, he's giving Krishna for him. So he says, Drita Kori Daro Nitar Pai. We have to firmly grasp hold of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda is very easy to please. We simply get people to chant, engage in the Sankirtan.
If you do actually get the mercy, although it's hard to see how people miss the blessings, but the fact is that those that do get the blessings are free of material desires. In Srila Bhakti-Chintamani, Sri Ramanuja was exploring the territory where devotees reverses in progress of the spiritual life. And as Kanishtas, everyone is enthusiastic and fired up. But during that sojourn through the Anartha-Nivritti, so many fall aside, and very few come out on the other side still with pure faith. It becomes mixed. They mix their vows. They stop attending the morning program, and then they drift in the realms of devotional service. So it's a very small percentage, unfortunately, to qualify to get that mercy signature member.
Yeah, I get to have somewhat narrow vision. We would see the bigger picture. People are still on their devotional path. It may take longer, more lifetimes, but nonetheless you cannot, we have to understand that you cannot avoid that mercy. We come in contact, we take shelter of the spiritual master, we're chanting, although we may not, through authentic success, our devotional assets may be frozen. If the bank account is frozen, but it's a permanent asset.
It's interesting in Madhuri Kandamani, Vishnu Chakravarti, he talks about 6 forms of unsteady devotional service, and one of them is Utsamai. And Utsamai is the young devotee who's complacent. He thinks he's fine, he understands everything, he's going to be okay. There's this false sense, this false confidence that causes his devotional service to be unsteady, so that he's not able to traverse the Anattanavritti. It was funny because I was with the Maharajas and we passed Akipada Maharaj, and so Shri Ramanuja was saying the devotees take too long to come through the Anattanavritti. Just take if we very clearly understand what is this path of traversing, and we and we just we'll just get swept along by the it's quite a treacherous path. You have to be very, very careful. Like a race is up. And you want to do something as much as possible.
Thank you for a question on an art artist. The time it takes. If you've been going through the process of an Anattanavritti in the past, and you fell away, and you kind of roll back much for, and then when you come back to devotional life, and the time that you spent in an Anattanavritti in the past, does that count, or basically go back to the start again?
Then you've made new not as desires. Some activity that has salt the heart and engage some activities it's part of the action but stop which is more material desire because you can't make the intro you not the purifying or not the period nonetheless the process of this is you only need a stability and purifies and Krishna wants back to them more than we want ourselves and therefore our engagement with sincerity with genuine within Krishna he uses karma for the superior Krishna will use karma to give particular lessons, particular so we need to go for particular as long as we can remain firmly practice of sadhana, then I say this process has to be intense. We have to just at least two things. We have to be sort of keenly. I think the best work is one prayer I give to us. I'll put the main one. If you come to Prabhupada, you're often going to say, Prabhupada, why I need to go through personally? Personally, I need to I can be closer to you. Please speed those things up. It's very, very clear. It comes with certain consequences. You're just willing to do it. But then you can see how Krishna, the spiritual master, is personally involved in our purification, and is also giving us, looking after us. We're safe. So we continue taking shelter. Everything comes out in the wash. Bhagavatam is here. Lord Singha is not going to come out and start killing them, but also we understand Bhagavatam is showing an example that actually if we are sincere like Prahlad Maharaj, he knows what's right. He's going to do it regardless. He's not going to give in to some pressure, etc. Krishna protects him, gives the best benefit to his family. You know. Similarly, we have to understand that if there is some opposition, according to the circumstance, how we deal with that relationship. But some people, Prabhupada said to Satsvarupa Maharaj, hey, you should cut off the relationship with your family. You know, I'm your father now. If other people, Prabhupada said, no, you should go back home. You should, even somebody who spend time with the family, live with them. According to the circumstance, different, but the actual principle is there that Krishna will protect. And Krishna, this process of Bhakti Yoga is all auspicious. Sumangala. It's all auspicious, therefore there's nothing else you can actually do which you're going to benefit them. Yeah. The Grantarashtra Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Go Premanand.
His Grace Tattva Prabhu ki.
Into good devotion.